What's going on, y'all? It's your man, D-Real, and entertainment is what I do. It's Wednesday. So y'all know what it is, right? Yeah, RecastTchalla. I ain't coming on strong this week. I'm coming on stronger. What do I mean by that? Okay. I'm gonna tell you in a second. Let's be real with D-Real. Hello, and welcome to another Be Real with D-Real, where edutainment is what I do. As I said, it's Wednesday. Wednesday, we do the Recast Tchalla else, boycott, Black Panther 2, Recast Tchalla, still, whatever you want to call it. That's what it's all about. But this week, I want to come at y'all at a different angle. And the angle is this. I wanted to share a story with y'all. I wanted to share a story with y'all that is basically the history of my interaction with the character of Tchalla. I'd have been like 9 years old, maybe somewhere around there. And I was already reading comic books, and I would bring my comic books to school, right? Maybe like 2 or 3 of my comics, and then there was another guy who I went to school with. He would bring comics, and I'd hand off my comics to him, and he'd hand off his comics to me, and we would read each other's comics. And then later on, we'd get back together, maybe or later that week or something like that, and we'd have a conversation with each other. And one day, I got a copy from him of, I think it was Jungle Action number, I think it's 18, which is like the conclusion of the Panther's Rage storyline. And in that storyline, there are dinosaurs running wild through the streets of Wakanda. And there are like at least 4 or 5 different villains that Killmonger has that are doing things in Wakanda. And everybody's got to look up and team up and handle the problem. And eventually, Black Panther and Killmonger square off at Warrior Falls. I watch Killmonger literally take off a spiked bandolier and beat the Black Panther like a runaway slave. And when he got done doing all of that, he picked the Black Panther up and was getting ready to throw him over the waterfall. In fact, if my memory serves me correctly, at one point he did throw Black Panther over the falls, but Black Panther, with his agility and acrobatic skill, was able, to avoid death. And a young man by the name of Cantu, however you want to pronounce it, comes and pushes Killmonger from behind and saves the Black Panther. Now, the first question in my mind was, what are the events that led up to this? Dinosaurs running wild in the streets, because all I knew of Black Panther at that time was he was the black guy in the Avengers. Later on, I went retroactively and got all of the comics in the Panther's Rage series. And I read that story in its entirety, and I read about Killmonger, and I read about T'Challa's romance with Monica Lynn, and how the Wakandans were very unaccepting of her because she was an outsider. And in my mind, I was like, an outsider? She's black. She's a black woman. How is she an outsider amongst other black people? And then later on, that's when I learned, okay, the Wakandans are a very closed society, and they don't get up and get out and get around with too many people. The point I'm getting at was these disparities in T'Challa's origin, in his storyline, like in Fantastic Four number 52, we get the story of why T'Challa became the Black Panther, but we don't get the story of how. And that story has been retconned once or twice to tell a different narrative. The Black Panther originally went to school, learned, a lot of different sciences, a lot of different skills, a lot of different martial arts, came back, tested himself on the Fantastic Four to see if he was up to the task. Then there is the Reginald Hudlin version where the residing Black Panther steps out into an arena, and anybody that wants to fight him because they think they can be king can get in the arena and fight with that current Black Panther. T'Challa happened to put on a mask and best his uncle Sion, which allowed him to, as Zuri put it, a path to the throne. And he was king ever since, but his education didn't end then. He continued to get training and education and fight skills and all of that kind of stuff throughout the entire process. What I'm getting at is this. I'm into T'Challa, not because he's an engaging character, which he is. I'm into T'Challa for one reason and one reason only. I see myself in him. He's a man. He's a Black man. He's a Black man in a position of authority. He's a Black man in a position of power. And that is something we don't get to see a lot of. So it's not so much, and this is the crux of what I want to say. It's not so much that we are offended that you are taking T'Challa out of the game when he's the franchise player. You're taking a Black man in a position of power out of the game. We never play up the fact of T'Challa's intellect. T'Challa is one of the most intelligent human beings in the Marvel universe. Not so much in the MCU, but the fact that we have a strong, intelligent, wise man in a position of power who just happens to be Black does not sit well with the current storyline, or cannot be incorporated into the current storyline. That's the part I don't understand. It always has to be, okay, y'all either get this or y'all either get that. And when I say y'all, yeah, I'm talking about us. We can't have our cake and eat it too. We never get our cake and eat it too. Why can't we have Shuri and T'Challa in the same movie? Y'all did it in the first Black Panther, and the story about honoring, okay, I'm not listening to that anymore. And anybody who has sense is not listening to that anymore. That's the very definition of ignorance. How can you be honoring somebody by wiping out every trace of the character they played? Okay. Maybe your honor is temporary. I don't know. But what I'm getting at by telling you these stories of my formative years with T'Challa and my formative years as a human being, it made an impression upon me. And I am not the only young Black man it made an impression upon. The kids in my neighborhood were reading Black Panther comic books. Not necessarily because of me, but because they had the opportunity to walk down to the 7-Eleven just like I did and turn that rotating rack. There were X-Men comic books there. There were Superman comic books there. There were Luke Cage comic books there. There were Captain America and the Falcon comic books there. And of course, there was Jungle Action featuring the Black Panther. Can you guess what 3 comic books I came home with more often than not? Don't get it twisted. I bought all kind of Marvel stuff, but more often than not, if I saw Captain America and the Falcon, if I saw the Black Panther, if I saw Luke Cage, I was snagging that joint, flat out. This is why we need a T'Challa on screen. Not to further your plot, not to further your agenda, and not even to further ours of the RecastTchalla movement, but simply because a Black man in power is something we need to see. It's something we need to see more of. It's something we need to see more often than not. Do y'all agree? Do y'all disagree? Drop it in the comments. And as always, comment, like, and subscribe to the Be Real with D-Real page. I'll be back with another one of them other ones. And until then, y'all be good to each other.